Ayes 39, noes 1. Members, we are going to lift the calls. We have several items. If you can please remain on the floor so we can get through our items that are on call. We are going to begin with file item 87, members. File item 87, SB 219. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Berryhill, aye to no. Canella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Galgiani. Huff. No. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. No. Wolk. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Galgiani.
Ayes 25, noes 14. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 92, SB 255. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Fuller. Aye. Huff. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. File number 94, SB 303, members. We want to just go through the roll call once, members, so please pay attention. File item 94, SB 303. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Huff. Aye. Mitchell. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 39, no 0. Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 95, SB 342. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Fuller. Aye. De Leon, aye. Huff. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morrell. Aye. Nielsen. Wolk. Nielsen, aye. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 40, no 0. Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 97, SB 369. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Huff. Aye. Mitchell. Monning. Mitchell, aye. Aye. Monning. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 98, SB 379. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Canella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Galgiani. No. Wesso. Aye. Huff. No. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. No. Roth. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Hall we have as aye.
Ayes 25, noes 15. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. File item 99, SB 461. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Wesso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 40, no zero. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. File item 101, SB 469. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Canella. I. De Leon. Fuller. I. Hueso. I. Galgioni. I. Huff. I. Mendoza. I. Monning. I. Nielsen. I. Wolk. I. De Leon. I.
Ayes 40, no zero. Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 102, SB 485. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Mendoza. I. Monning. I. Nielsen. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 40, no zero. Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 103, SB 504. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Canella. I. De Leon. Fuller. Fuller, no. De Leon, I. Hueso. I. Huff. No. Leva. I. Monning. I. Nielsen. Just no. Wolk. I. Canella, I don't know.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 104, SB 508. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Bates. I. Berryhill. No. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. Glazer. I. Hueso. I. Huff. No. Monning. I. Wynn. I. Nielsen. No. Wolk. I. Vidak. No to I. Huff. No to I.
Ayes 31, noes 8. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 106, SB 536. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Lara. I. Monning. I. Wynn. I. Nielsen. I. Stone. Wolk. I.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 113, SB 139. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. Galgioni. I. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Mendoza. I. Monning. I. Nielsen. I. Runner. I. Wolk. I.
Ayes 39, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 39, no 0 on the measure. Moving on to file item 114, SCR 86. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Monning. I. Nielsen. I. Runner. I. Wolk. I.
Ayes 39, no 0. Measure passes. Members, we're moving on to file item 189, AB 1411. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Allen. I. Berryhill. No. Fuller. Mitchell. Monning. Aye. Mitchell, aye. Morrell. No. Nielsen. No. Wolk. Aye.
Ayes 30, noes 9, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 225, AB 827. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Fuller. Galgioni. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Wolk. Aye. Berryhill, no. Nielsen, no. Galgioni, aye.
Ayes 27, noes 12, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 226, ACR 66. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Galgioni. Huff. Aye. Latta. Aye. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 38, no 0, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 295, AB 580. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Bates. Berryhill. Fuller. Huff. Aye. Monning. Berryhill, aye. Monning, aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 38, no 0, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 351, AB 97. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Huff. Aye. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye. Aye.
Ayes 39, no 0, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 386, AB 849. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Aye. Fuller. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 39, no 0, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 394, AB 1056. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Bell. Berryhill. Bell, aye. Berryhill. Aye. Fuller. Huff. Aye. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Wolk. Aye.
Ayes 39, no 0, measure passes. Members, this is our last item on call. It's file item 402, AB 1185. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Fuller. Huff. No. Monning. Aye. Nielsen. No. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 26, noes 13, the measure passes. Members, we're going to move to governor's appointments. Senator De Leon. That's file items 85 and 86, members.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have before us Mr. Gary Reed, who I believe is from the Central Valley. He is a member of the California Community College Board of Governors. He was heard August 26, voted unanimously, a 5-0 vote, no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Galgioni. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Hueso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Latta. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. I. Mendoza, I. Mitchell, I. Monning, I. Morlock, I. Morrell, I. Wynn, I. Nielsen, I. Pan, I. Pavley, I. Roth, I. Runner, I. Stone, I. Vidak, Wachowski, I. Wolk. Wolk, I. Hill, I.
Call the absent members.
Vidak, I.
Ayes 40, no zero. The appointment's confirmed in. Moving on to file item 86, Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have file item number 86 before us. We have Pamela Allen as well as Stephanie Clenenden. Pamela Allen is Director of Department of State Hospitals. Mrs. Clenenden is the Deputy Director of the Department of State Hospitals. Both of these appointments were heard on August 26th in Rules Committee, and they both pass on a unanimous vote, 5-0, bipartisan. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Is there objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 40, no zero. The appointment's confirmed in. Senator Wessel, for what purpose do you rise?
Under motions and resolutions, if it's appropriate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I'd like to remove AB 182 from the inactive file. AB 182, I'd like to remove AB 182 from the inactive file.
Without objection. Members, we're going to move to the consent calendar. It's items 417 through 436. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 71, Senate Bill 235, 407, 416, 421, 436, 474, 489.
Consent calendar will be deemed read. Is there an objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 40, no zero. The consent calendar is adopted. Members, at this time, the regular session will stand in recess, and the first extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Committee reports will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Senate third reading file, items 1 and 2. Item number 1, Senator Bell, are you prepared to take up this item? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 4 by Senator Bell, an act relating to transportation.
Senator Bell.
It was a pleasure of the Senate, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, that I would like to take up SB 4 and SB 5 together. These are two measures which are being sent over to the Assembly to facilitate a potential agreement on the transportation funding package. They're spot bills. At this point, there's no agreement on a package, but moving these bills to Assembly makes us better positioned to implement an agreement should one be reached. The Assembly on Monday sent two measures to us as well, so we have their measures already. By the end of today, the Senate Transportation and Infrastructure Committee will have had, I believe, 3 bill hearings. We have one today. We'll probably have one next week. I believe we're going to consider Senator Bates' bill next week. And we've also had an informational hearing. To have full public hearing on all those issues, these bills are vehicles that may be used to help us implement any agreements that are reached. I urge and I vote on these measures and move these measures to the State Assembly.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm still a little new, but voting for a spot bill, voting for an empty bill, maybe you could help me, Mr. President. I apologize.
did explain that.
Is that a question for the? Senator Bell, would you like to answer Senator Morlock's question?
Well, I made a point of saying these are spot bills, and we're sending them over to the Assembly to facilitate an agreement on the special session. The governor issued a proclamation asking us to consider these transportation finance measures, and we are working on them in our committee. The Assembly's working on them. These are spot bills to simply facilitate an agreement if one is reached. And as you know, that will be discussed fully at a public hearings in the Assembly and the Senate.
Senator Anderson.
Senators, I know in recent years this has become common practice to send empty bills to the Assembly for them to fill the language in and advocate our authority to them, the lower house. I think we should do our own work. We shouldn't leave it for them. We should send these bills over with information in the bills so that they can see what Senate ideas look like when they get to the Assembly and not be filled with Assembly ideas to come back to us. Now, that's one reason why this is bad, but the other reason why this is bad is it really stops the debate. When those bills come back, nobody can amend those bills. It's an up or down vote, only an up and down vote. So when we're looking to come together as a body, working across party lines, including everybody in the process, by the very nature of sending empty bills, shells of bills, to the Assembly for the Assembly to tell us what we can vote up and vote down, I think that's the wrong way to go. When I first got to the Assembly, we actually filled our own bills. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe only the Assembly is allowed to fill bills and we're not allowed to have ideas. But I think back then, even the Senate filled its own bills. So I'd urge you to add our language and send it over to them and let them send their language over to us, and then let's negotiate. But to turn around and just allow them to dictate to us what we vote up and down, I think is a mistake. So I'm urging a no vote.
Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Senator Bell, would you like to close?
Yes, simply we're sending our spot bills over to them. They're sending their spot bills over to us. We will have a vote on the Senate floor on an agreement. We're working hard in a bipartisan fashion to facilitate those agreements. I am working very hard on this. I urge our vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. I. Berryhill. No. Block. I. Cannella. De Leon. I. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Gaggiani. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. No. Jackson. I. Lara.
Aye.
I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. Morrell. No. Wynn. Nilsson. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Cannella. Galgiani. Morlock. No. Wynn.
Ayes 25, noes 12, the measure passes. Moving on to file item number 2. Senator Bell, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 5 by Senator Bell, an act relating to transportation.
Senator Bell.
Mr. President, members, this is just a bill exactly like the last one. It's a spot bill to be sent over to the Assembly. They will send their 2 spot bills over to us, and we will work to facilitate agreement. I urge and I vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Canella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Gaggiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Weso. Aye. Huff. No. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. Nilsson. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Canella. Galgiani. Wynn.
Ayes 25, noes 12.
Wynn, no.
Ayes 25, noes 13. Measure passes. At this time, the first extraordinary session will stand in recess, and the second extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Senate third reading file items 1 and 2. We'll begin with the first item, item number 1, Senator Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this bill is also a vehicle we hope to use to provide additional
Senator
support.
Hernandez, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 2 by Senator Hernandez, an act relating to human services financing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this bill is a vehicle which we hope to use to provide additional support and access to services for the state's Medi-Cal and Developmental Service Program. I believe there is a bipartisan agreement that we should increase Medi-Cal and developmental service provider rates, but there is yet not to be a consensus on how to increase these rates. Moving these bills today is the essential procedural setup to allow discussion to continue and ensure we have bills in position when we do reach an agreement. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Senator Anderson.
Members, I'd just like to remind everybody in extraordinary session, there is no time limit. We're not on any kind of deadline. There's no reason for us to rush an empty bill to the other side, to the lower house. We could actually fill these bills with real language, and then we could know what we're voting on. We wouldn't have to vote on a pig in a poke. I'd urge a no vote, and that we should do our own homework.
Senator Morrell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I also would just like to say, you know, over the last month or two, we could have easily heard these bills or the potential what you're going to do in our Senate Health Committee meetings. So it's interesting that that didn't happen. This is definitely not accountability or open or transparent government. It's perhaps why much of the public is very cynical today. Thank you.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the budget proceedings, we made it very clear that the Republicans were very much in favor of increasing the Medi-Cal fee to accommodate the third of the state of California that's enrolled in the program. We also made it very clear that we are in support of enhancing money for the development disadvantaged, where they've had $1 billion taken away from them over the past 8 years. And as you all know, we received about $11 billion in unanticipated revenue in this past fiscal year, and the appropriate time to honor those commitments to the most vulnerable of our population was during the budget process. Republicans were not invited in the room when the budget was being chopped up. You had your priorities, and I made it very clear when we passed the budget, don't point your finger at Republicans and expect us to vote for a tax increase when we had the money to take care of the most vulnerable population. This is a mechanism to do it in a very untransparent way. I was hoping the Senate would be operating in a much more professional, open manner, and I might say it's a very disappointing day for me. I urge our colleagues to vote no.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me perhaps damper a tad bit the enthusiasm right now. There's no nefarious process going on right now. The words transparency, unprofessionalism, or lack of professionalism. This is a vehicle and this is a process. It is, quote unquote, a process. This is also a reflection that negotiations are continuing, or there's the hope that we can have continued negotiations. Hence, perhaps not as detailed language as that we witness right now, because we have a September 11 deadline. When we gavel down at midnight, September 11th, it's over. Although technically speaking, when we're in an extraordinary session, we can go on in perpetuity beyond September 11th. But I think it's the end goal to get something, whatever something is, and we don't know what something is as of yet. You know, that's something that yet to be defined, obviously, with conversation, negotiation, engagement, going back and forth with each other. The fact that we don't lose any leveraging position or our own dignity by moving vehicles over to the Assembly side, because we will continue to engage with our Republican colleagues and continue to engage with our Democratic colleagues on the other side, because ultimately we want the same thing, which is we want to build or rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, the local highways, the bridges. We want to deal with the issue of DD as well as Medi-Cal rate reimbursement rates, and deal with the potential of $1.1 billion budget hole in our general fund if we don't deal with the issue of MCO tax. So this is something that we will still continue to engage on, colleagues. Just know that these are vehicles because of process we have to move over, because today is Tuesday. We have until Friday, September 11th. We have amendments, deadlines. That's the parliamentary procedure. So I just want to reassure my colleagues, my good friends on the Republican side, there's nothing that's nefarious or some conspiracy theory of some sort happening right now. So I just want to reassure you. Thank you much, Mr. President.
Senator Roth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, just to make sure that we have the facts when we vote, as a member of the Budget Committee, my recollection is we didn't have a big bucket of extra money, that the unanticipated revenue actually was $6.8 billion, and $5.8 billion of that went to schools under Prop 98. So just when you vote, keep that in mind.
Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Hernandez, would you like to close?
Thank you. Just respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Block. Aye. Canella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. No. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Aye.
Please call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Canella. Galgiani.
Ayes 25, noes 13. The measure passes. Moving on to file item number 2. Senator Hernandez. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 3 by Senator Hernandez, an act relating to human services financing.
Senator Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a second vehicle. It is also a spot bill, which we will move over to the other house in hopes that we come to some resolution to be able to fill those and then bring them back for concurrence and or for discussion. Anyway, respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Block. Aye. Canella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. I Hertzberg. I Hill. I Wesso. I Huff. No Jackson. I Lara. I Leno. Leva. I Liu. Leno. I Liu. I McGuire. I Mendoza. I Mitchell. I Monning. I Morlock. No Morrell. No Wynn. Nilsson. Wynn no, Nilsson no, Pan. I Pavley. I Roth. I Runner. No Stone. No Vidak. No Wykowski. I Wolk. Wolk aye.
Call the absent members, please.
Berryhill. No. Canella. Galgioni.
Ayes 25, noes 13. The measure passes. Is there any further business in the second extraordinary session? Seeing none, at this time, the second extraordinary session will stand in recess and the regular session will be reconvened. Members, we are going back, returning to motions and resolutions. Senator Jackson, what purpose you raise?
Thank you, Mr. President, for an adjourn in the memory which has been cleared with the
Without
desk.
objection.
Thank you. I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Rosa Margaret Pace, whose family, I believe, is in the gallery today. I rise to adjourn in her memory, a tribal elder, leader, and founder of the Santa Ynez Tribal Health Clinic. Rosa was a dedicated and passionate tribal leader and healthcare advocate who passed away August 19th, surrounded by her family at her home on the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Reservation. She was a young 86 years of age. She was born and raised on the Chumash Reservation and worked tirelessly to improve living conditions and health services for tribal families. In the early 1970s, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians, like many other tribes across the United States, had very limited access to reliable and quality health care. Rosa, who was an obstetrics nurse at the time, decided to do something about it. In 1974, she opened the first clinic on the Chumash Reservation. The Tribal Health Clinic began in a small trailer with one exam room. She served as the clinic's executive director for the next 26 years until the year 2000. And today, the clinic, which is a thriving, marvelous, modern facility, serves medical, dental, and behavioral health needs to the entire community and sees some 17,000 patients a year. In 2014, the clinic received the coveted Accreditation Association for Ambulatory Healthcare Certificate because of her hard work and vision. Rosa was also instrumental in bringing water to the reservation back in 1969. Rosa, her sister Beatrice Marco, and other tribal members organized numerous fundraisers, including fashion shows, bake sales, and other more traditional kinds of things that women did in those days to help raise funds for this history-making endeavor. She was the mother of 3, grandmother of 9, and great-grandmother of 9. She served in numerous tribal leadership roles for 50 years, from 1950 to the year 2000. And in addition to being the clinic's executive director, she also served on the tribe's governing board as vice chair and secretary-treasurer. And you can be sure that her voice was heard and that her vision was part of what was implemented by this great tribe. She served as an incredible role model to many, and her dedication to helping and serving others has been carried on by her family, and her life's work has touched the lives of multi-generations of tribal families, as well as hundreds of members of the general community at large. Several of her members and of her tribal community are here with us in the gallery, including her son, Tribal Council Member Gary Pace, her grandson, Ken Kahn, who's the vice chairman. Also in the gallery are Tribal Chairman Vince Armenta, my good friend, and business committee members Maxine Littlejohn and Mike Lopez. Please join me and them in honoring the memory of this extraordinary woman.
Members, let's welcome Senator Jackson's guest, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians. And Senator Jackson, if you can please bring Mrs. Pace's name up to the desk so she can be properly memorialized. Members, is there any additional adjournment memories? Senator Jim Bell.
For purposes of announcements and introduction, Mr.
Without objection.
The Senate Transportation and Infrastructure Committee will meet at 4 o'clock or immediately following this meeting in room 4203. And also for purposes of introductions, I'd like to introduction of a former student intern. When he was 18, he was an intern in my office, and now he's a member of the BART Board of Directors, Bay Area Rapid Transit District Board of Records, Zachary Millay. Zachary?
Welcome. Members, is there any additional adjournment memories or announcements? Seeing if there's no other business, Senator De Leon, the desk is clear.
Thank you much, Mr. President. Colleagues, today we dispensed of 65 bills. 22 of those bills were our bills, Senate bills. Approximately 43 were Assembly bills. We had a nice pace today. We will convene tomorrow at 10 a.m. However, be mindful between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. I'm sorry, between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. We will have a break because a handful of us have Rules Committee tomorrow, and there'll be more than 1 or 2 individuals absent from this floor. So between 12 and 2, we will have a break, but we will reconvene tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. The Senate will be adjourned. We will reconvene Wednesday at 10 a.m.